Hey you, welcome back to another Roblox scripting tutorial. I'm RoHacker and today I want to teach you all about the while loop and how you can use them in Roblox. So, what are while loops? While loops are control structures that allow you to repeat a certain code over and over again as long as the condition is true. So, I'm going to open up the script and here's a basic example. While true do print enter print am cool, and then I'm going to add a task dot wait here. So what this code is doing is it's checking if the condition or the statement between the while and do is true. And if so, the code will run. This is just being the code. And once it runs through the code between the this and do, the code will check if the condition is true again. And if it's still true, it continue running this until this condition becomes false. And in this case, since the condition, which being true, is always equal to true, this code will always run or run over and over and over again. Now this task.wait is super important because the computers are able to process things super fast and it will run this loop infinitely fast, which is bad. And since this loop never ends, the computer will be infinitely trying to run this code as fast as as fast as it can. And this can overwhelm the servers and cause your game to crash. In order to prevent this, you must add this task.wait function right here, or just anywhere in between the loop. And this will throttle the code, which will just limit how much a particular piece of code is executed. Long story short, this task.wait function makes sure your computer doesn't get overwhelmed. Anyways, I'm going to run this code and you can see that amcool is printed into the console over and over again, like forever over and over again. So now what happens if you go back to the code and you change this true to a false? And then I press play. You can see how it doesn't print out anything anymore. And this is because when the code runs, it deems this condition over here between the while and do to be false, which means it will not run this code because the condition is false. The while loop should remind you of the if statement, which is another control structure that looks similar to the while loop. The while statement and the if statement look similar. The while statement is while condition do, whereas the if statement is if condition then. The major difference between these two statements is that the while loop repeats a block of code until the condition is false, while the if statement only runs the code once if the condition is true. Now I can change this condition to virtually whatever I want. At the end of the day, if a statement is true, the while loop will run the code and keep running the code, and if not, it will not keep running this code. I have a challenge for you. Create a variable called time remaining. Set time remaining equal to 5 and use a while loop, to make time remaining count down by 1 to 0. Basically, make it count down from 5 all the way down to 1 and have it wait for a second every single time. You think you guys can do that? Feel free to pause the video while I give you a few seconds to solve the problem. Have you done that yet? Well, here's the solution. So first, I created the variable time remaining and set it equal to 5. Then, while time remaining is greater than 0, you run this code, which it'll print time remaining, which is 5 at this point. Then time remaining will decrement by 1, so it'll become 4. Then you would wait 1 second. Then since you're at the end of this while loop, it'd recheck is time remaining greater than 0, 4 is greater than 0, print time remaining, so print 4, decrement time remaining by 1, wait 1 second, is 3 greater than 0, print 3, which is time remaining, and decrement time remaining again, wait a second, time remaining is now 2, print 2, decrement it by 1, wait a second, time remaining is now 1, print 1, decrement by 1, and then wait a second, and now time remaining is equal to 0, and 0 is obviously not greater than 0, so this code wouldn't run anymore and it'd exit. So if I were to run this code, then as you can see, it prints out 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. You can ignore this amcool part. It's just that the other script is running simultaneously as this script is, so you can ignore the amcool. All right, I'd like to remind you that with conditions or this part, you can use and or expressions or keywords to make a more complex Boolean expression for the condition. So we could have done while time remaining is greater than 0 and time remaining is less than 100, do this. And then it would check if both of these conditions are true, do this. So I have another quick challenge for you. Given this code down here, the number greater, oh, I need to comment this out. But given this code down here, what do you think will be printed out to console or output? Feel free to pause the video as I give you a few seconds to come up with a solution. Have you come up with a solution? I hope you have, because the solution is actually very, very easy. The answer is literally nothing. And this is because we're given the number, set it equal to 0.5, and it says while the number is greater than 1, which is not, and the number is less than 0, which it also isn't, print, do this, do all these things. But since the number's in between that, it's not greater than 1 and less than 0, it will not run. I hope you caught that, because it was pretty easy. Actually, it's a little tricky, but it was a pretty simple solution. Now, very quickly, I'll talk to you about the break statement. When the break statement runs, it forces the code to exit out of the loop. Right now, we have while the number is less than 100, do this code, which is basically just printing out the number and incrementing it by 1. And obviously to wait here, so no chance of it crashing. So when I press play, you can see how it prints all the way up to 100 or 99 because it increments after, yeah, because I said less than 100. So what the break statement can do is to completely like exit out of this loop without the condition actually having to be false. So let's say I added another variable. Local counter is equal to 0. And let's say I also set counter is equal to, actually I can just say the number, because as the number goes up, I want the counter to also go up with it. This is just to show a point. I wouldn't actually do this in the actual game or anything, but this is to show a point of what you can do with it. You can do if counter is equal to 10, then break. Now, when I run the code, it'll print up to 10, actually 9. Yeah, I'll print up to 9 and then exit the code. What this did is that it repeated the loop 10 times or 10 iterations, and through its 10th time, it completely exited out of this while loop, so it does not continue on with the loop. If I used continue instead, it would actually, if I use continue, it would go on to the next iteration instead of, and completely skip this next part of code. There you have it. I hope you enjoyed the tutorial. My next tutorial will be on repeat loops, which is another more simpler type of loop. If you're interested, make sure you click on the link on the screen now or the link down below. Have a good day.